Welcome back to the Run the World podcast, episode
10.
Double digits, everyone. We made it.
We're almost to the half marathon point.
Yeah, exactly.
This is exciting.
Yeah, we're super pumped. So thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure that you like and subscribe and comment if you have questions or want us to cover anything about training.
Yeah, so we got a really practical one today. A lot of these lessons, as it were, kind of come from experience we have. And this one is like really near and dear to our hearts right now in this busy season of life. So we have a lot of things on the docket today.
Yeah, so just a quick update on our life right now. Last week, I talked about this in the podcast a little bit. Drew was up in Georgia for a class, and I was out in California doing some FKTs and doing the 4-and-4 FKT challenge. So a little update on that. I kind of did the challenge, kind of didn't. So I did attempt the challenge, but I kind of completed it, kind of didn't. So I ended up completing 4 FKTs and getting 4 FKTs, but I did it in 3 days instead of 4, and I had one route that I wanted to do that I wasn't able to do. So just another reason to go back to California and hit the FKTs, or another FKT at some point. But the first day I did a course that was just an out course, and I actually did it as my long run and made it an out and back, and they verified another variation of the course where they gave me an FKT for the out, and now they have one for the out and back. So I got 2 FKTs in one day on that day. The second day I did a loop course, and I got the FKT on that, and then I did Mount Diablo, and on Mount Diablo, at the very top of the climb, the very top of the mountain, the top of my foot started hurting, and so I had to kind of get back down carefully. I couldn't really send the downhill like I wanted to, and I still got the FKT, but that meant the 4th day when I was trying to do one last FKT, I didn't end up doing it. I just wanted to make sure that my foot felt good and was healed. So I was nervous for a couple of days, but then it cleared up. I just cross-trained for a little bit, and now I'm back to running and feeling good. But yeah, so did that last week. Then my sister came in town this past weekend, which was super fun. And then it's snowing a ton up here, so I need to go down to Phoenix to run. And then this weekend, we're volunteering at a camp, and it's like a middle school kids camp, and it's going to be super fun. But all that to say, our lives are super busy right now, which is going to feed into the topic you will see in a second.
Yes. Now, hold on a second. I'm not a mathematician, but it sounds like you set 4 FKTs.
I did set 4 FKTs. So I did complete the challenge, but it wasn't the 4 routes.
You just did it too fast.
I did it too fast. Yeah, I did it too quickly.
I didn't know that. I'm just finding this out now.
Yeah.
I thought you only were able to do 3. I didn't know you doubled up one day. So you did the 4 in 4 days. You just were like, I'm going to PR by a whole day.
Right. I was kind of trying to set myself up to have a little bit of a cushion to where it's like, if I wasn't able to do one of the days, then maybe I could still do the challenge. And it kind of worked out well, where one of the routes that I was planning to do, it was like flooded and the park was closed because California's been having a ton of rain. So I had to switch plans and not do that route. So I saw Mount Diablo had one that I thought that I could get. So I ended up putting that one in the place of the other one. And then I knew that there was an out variation on one and thought maybe I can do out and back, and then I had that other loop course that I was planning on doing. So I think things kind of shifted during the week, but that's kind of something that you have to do on trails and in training in general, is just being flexible and kind of going with the flow and not freaking out if things don't go your way, which we will also talk about later.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. Wild things.
While she was doing that, I did not set a single FKT last week. I had a seminary class in Christology in Georgia at Sharp Top Young Life Camp, and it was an awesome class. Shout out to Sean. He helps me with all of my mental knowledge as he works on his running skill, which is increasing rapidly. But anyway, it was really fun. But in that, I was super busy. Class would start at 8:30, 9 in the morning, and we would often go till 6 or 7 at night. And we would have a few little breakout sessions where we'd have a little bit of free time, but It was really hard to get in the mileage that I need to be in my current build-up for Boston in April. So we're just like a month and a half out now from Boston, which I'm excited for. Definitely have had some workouts now and long runs now. About a week and a half ago, I sprained my ankle playing tennis. I think we talked about this. It's feeling better, but it's still not 100, and running on it is not super great. So a lot of these next topics that we'll talk about have affected us not only just like recently of how busy we've been in the last couple weeks, but even in the fall, and especially for me, like last summer, these have all been things that we've had to process and think through, and Rachel has helped me a lot on the coaching end of it, because otherwise I feel like I fail a lot of the times and I fall short on the mileage or the workouts. And I think before being coached by Rachel, I didn't know what was important, what to leave at the door, how to frame my time. Like, I have the work ethic, but I don't always have the time. I don't always have the health. Sometimes I'm injured, sometimes I'm sick, sometimes I'm out of the state on work. So there's a lot of different factors, as probably all of you, unless you're a pro runner, and even if you're a pro runner, can relate, because you get injured too. Life happens, and a lot of what we're going to talk about today is just how to mentally and plan, like how to mentally plan and just like physically plan your time so that you set yourself up for success.
Yeah, and even as a pro athlete too, I know some pro athletes don't like to keep themselves busy, and they kind of just like to train and then rest up, which that's one way of doing it. I like to be a little bit busier, so which I know I do that to myself, but it makes it so that I need to plan. I really need to be careful planning out training. So it's kind of a thing where you need to know yourself too. If you're a super busy person, then you also kind of need to be super planned if you're going to try to target a hard race and really, really train for it.
Very true.
Yeah.
So what's number one?
So number one is plan out each week when you're going to run. So have a plan for the week. Know going into the week, these are the days that I'm going to run, or this is the workout I'm going to do each day. These are the times that I'm going to be able to get in my run or workout on those days. This is how much mileage I'm going to do for each day and for the week. And that just helps me mentally to have a goal in mind of what I'm trying to go after for the week. So I have like my workouts planned, the hard ones that I want to do, I have goals for those, and I have a goal mileage as well. So that helps me just be able to say, okay, I know exactly when they're spaced out, and I know I have time for each of these things. And I'll plan my hard workout days on days that maybe aren't as busy or stressful life-wise. And I do a few things outside of running. I volunteer with Where Drew Works, which takes up some time and it's super fun, but I need to plan. If I have a day where I'm heavy volunteering on that day, then maybe I won't do a super hard workout, or I'll plan around it. So that's kind of what I do. Just in the week to make the training flow and make sure that I'm balancing life and training as well.
Totally. And in maybe a normal week, if normal even really exists, you might have days where you're like track Tuesday or workout Wednesday, and your long run's always Saturday or Sunday morning. And that's fine to have like a general structure to your week and to try to stick to that as best as possible, for sure. And maybe try to schedule your life around that. But there's gonna be times where you just can't.
Yeah.
And like she said, this weekend's perfect. I'm working, she's volunteering with me. And it's like a Friday through Sunday, pretty intensive thing. Like we'll be on almost 24/7.
Yeah. Smashing guitars on stage, things like that.
That's true. You're gonna miss it. It's gonna be sad, but it's gonna be a blast for us. But sometimes not traditionally running your workouts on certain days or long runs on certain days, this is kind of like when that can happen. So for me, I'm trying to get 45-ish miles this week, and normally I would do a long run on Saturday or Sunday, but both of those mornings will be working. So I'm trying to set myself up, well, I'm gonna do my long run on Thursday, which it's like, who does long runs on Thursday morning? But it's kind of like, well, that is one of the most important things that I need to be doing for marathon training is my long run. We've talked about that in previous podcasts of workouts. So I'm like, I need to do this well. I have the emotional capacity, physical capacity and time capacity to actually run for over 2 hours straight.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do it then and take Saturday off and maybe just do an easy evening run on Sunday to set myself up well.
Yeah, and I'm doing something similar. My long run is going to be on Wednesday, and I'm kind of hitting training hard on Wednesday, Thursday, or like front logging my week a little bit so that the weekend can be a little bit chill.
Yeah, so it's okay to just like change it around sometimes. I know Strava believes on the, Monday through Sunday, and it's nice to have all the mileage look good and at the right times. But Rachel has pointed this out to me before. She's like, doing your long run on Monday, if Saturday and Sunday were busy, your body doesn't really know the difference.
Yeah, your body doesn't know what a week is.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what is a week? So maybe 1 week you don't do your long run that Sunday and you do a long run Monday and then that following Sunday. And on Strava, it looks like you took a dip 1 week and then ran like a stupid amount of mileage the following week. But your body had enough time to recover and get the workout done. So sometimes it's not the pretty way, but it's the effective way to actually get your training in.
Yeah, and I said that your body doesn't know what a week is, but I'm not saying that to say do a long run Monday and then do your next one on Wednesday. Like, definitely make sure that like your body does know recovery time. So make sure that you have recovery in between, but don't be so stuck on having to do something on Saturday every Saturday.
Yeah, and this is specifically, again, I think it's really good to have systems in place so that you are staying consistent. But this is the real life. When real life hits the fan, this is the way to get around it and still be able to do your training. Because otherwise, if we're like, well, Sunday morning is my long run and I'm working, guess I can't do a long run this week. Like, that's the alternative.
Yeah.
So we're trying to avoid that at all costs.
Totally. And if you work with a coach, hopefully your coach is good with communicating with you. And if you say, hey, I have a really busy weekend this weekend, then they can shift things around to help you out and make sure that you're planning your training right as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
This kind of links up to the second one if we're good to move.
Yeah.
So the second is to plan down weeks on busy weeks.
Yeah, which has been really key for me. So I think that it's really important in training. If you're having a really stressful week life-wise, just take it as a down week. That's totally okay.
Yeah. Hopefully it falls a little bit into place, but if you know weeks in advance that you're going to have a week, like for me, I knew I was going to be in Georgia for over a month out.
Yeah.
It would have been smart to plan ahead and been like, well, do a few weeks of intense training so that you can take that time off.
Yeah.
I ended up also getting injured, so I had to take my off week a week prior to that. So sometimes crap hits the fan multiple times.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll talk about what you do in that situation, because there's a lot of different options that we have to work with.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
if
This is planned, though. If you know that you have a planned, really busy week.
Yeah, and it could be like, oh, I'm going to go see family or friends, and I'm going to be traveling a lot. Or like it's a vacation, and I want to be down that week. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, if you know it weeks or ideally months in advance, you can plan your training around it so that you can actually have fun and enjoy life and do the things you want to do and get the best out of your training.
Yeah, totally. And a down week really, I don't know if we said this, but it just means that your training is lower in intensity and in volume. And I would do this even if I didn't have a week that was more stressful. Like every 3 weeks, probably I have a down week built into my training where I've been training really hard for 2 weeks and then my body needs a little bit of a rest just to recover and to be able to hit training hard in the next couple weeks. So I would do this naturally in training, even if it was like I was perfectly not busy for an entire buildup.
Exactly. So you might as well kill two birds with one stone and plan other things that you need to do that week on your down week.
Yeah, totally. I've done this so many times. I did this on our wedding week when we were getting married. I've done this when we've moved. I've done this like so many different times, and it works out really well. And then I feel like also I end up crushing the week after that because I'm so refreshed and I feel so good after that down week. So it's important in training, like I was saying. So you're going to do it anyway. Just do it on the weeks that make sense for you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Next one?
Yeah, next one.
Sweet. Plan races for times that aren't busy, especially races that you need to spend a lot of time training for, like a marathon might take more time for you to train for than just a 5K or like a mile race. So plan those big races for when you are not as busy.
Yeah, and the importance of the race too.
Yeah.
If you just like want to run the turkey trot because it's Thanksgiving, you can do it. It doesn't matter. But if you're trying to BQ or trying to set a new PR, then you want to set it for a time where you're not going to be stressed by all of the busyness of life on top of it.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it, because you could end up spending a lot of time training for a 5K. Pro runners that are specific 5K professional runners, they're spending lots of time training for a 5K. So, but yeah, whatever your target race is, make sure that that's at a time that's not super, super busy for you.
Yeah, really a lot of this advice in general is helpful for people who like keep track of their time pretty well and schedule things, whether it's like on a planner or, I mean, maybe in your head. Hopefully there's like a way that you can kind of know. Like if you asked us what's happening months out, we can generally tell you like the main things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's helpful to plan ahead. I know, speaking to college Drew, I didn't know what was happening next week. So maybe if you're anything like me, maybe you're a high school or college student and you're trying to like manage time and things just come up on you out of nowhere. That was me. I was terrible at that. And I've had to work a lot harder than maybe some other people have. But knowing what you're going to do a month or two out will help you in life in general.
Yeah, it will really, really help you. And yeah, I think that's something that is really important in training, is just to be able to be planned. And I have
Basically my whole year planned out of races right now. And I have athletes, and I kind of have a general idea of what the next year even
is going to look like. So
make your goals and then plan around for those goals. And even with the athletes that I coach, I'm like looking at their goal race and then planning backwards from that race. So that can be a helpful thing too, just to plan backwards from where your goal race is.
The nice thing is in each season, there's generally multiple options for like a great race. You know, if you're trying to crush a half marathon or marathon in the fall or the spring, you have the fall or the spring. And then within that, there's like multiple options for great PR marathons in the fall, multiple options in the spring. Maybe summertime is harder to find. You know, like there might be seasons where it's harder to find those good races. But 5Ks happen almost every weekend year round.
Totally.
So you'll have options. So that's something to be thinking through is, that one weekend in November, the first weekend in November, I can't do the marathon. Is there something later in November or early December where it's like close to the same range that I can put in a 12 to 16 week training block? Probably.
Yeah.
You just need to maybe dig a little deeper, ask a coach to help you research that race.
Yeah, totally. The other thing that I think is really important about planning races, and this doesn't really have much to do with your time management, but I think it's really important, is know when you're going to be training and make sure that works for you with like the weather that you're training in and just things like that. Like I know we both lived in Virginia in the summer. You lived there a long time, and
Yeah, my whole life.
yeah, I was in Texas training in the summer when I was growing up, and then Virginia for a little while. But I know a lot of athletes that try to do marathon buildups and they're training a lot during the summer. It's really easy to get discouraged because it's so hot and your times are like a lot slower when you're trying to do a workout. So if that's going to get in your head, maybe don't plan a marathon for September if you live in a really hot place, when you're going to have to do the bulk of your training in the summer. Or maybe if you live in a really cold place in the winter, don't plan a marathon for February or your target marathon for February or March, because you're going to be training a lot in the winter.
Yeah. And there's some people that hate training in the cold, some people that love it, some people that hate training in the heat, some people that love it.
Yeah.
So know yourself and set yourself up well for success in that way.
Totally. Yeah. So that's another kind of planning thing for your races. But next one.
Yeah, I think one more thing is this is why having a coach is so vital, because I think a lot of people, including myself, have questioned like, what is the best race to run? Especially the more advanced you get in running. You know, at first it might not matter. Anything you run will be a PR. Just training, you'll just get better. And that's awesome. That's really fun. But sometimes you want to push it to the next level. And in those cases, that's why I think having a coach to just bounce ideas off of. I'll ask Rachel, what do you think about this marathon as opposed to this marathon? And it might be just like subtle adjustments of like, this one is in a drier climate. This one has more net elevation drop, you know, like, you can just bounce your ideas off of and find that perfect race for you, because the reality is there's not just one perfect race. There's a lot of good options.
Yeah.
And depending on your schedule, your busyness, your life, all that, the heat, the cold, all that. That's why it's helpful to have someone to
Yeah,
ask.
totally. Yeah. So
Moving on.
that's a really good point. Moving on. Know when and how to cut things out of your training if you need to. So on a super, super busy week, what do you think are the best, or the things to cut out and the things to keep?
Yeah, great. This is super relevant to me recently. So last week, because of the busyness of being in class every day, I had to think, what is most important? Like, I probably won't be able to get to run every day. The class was at a camp up on top of a mountain, so there wasn't like places to really run. One day I did run up to the top of the mountain. That was my
You
easy
crushed
run.
it. Yeah.
But there wasn't, for someone who doesn't run trails, it's only so easy. But anyway, I thought,
Maybe some power hiking in there.
yes, definitely. So I thought, most importantly, I need my long run and I need my workout. Some speed and the long run. Easy days, I was like, you know what? If I miss an easy day, right now my easy days are 5 miles. If I miss 1 or 2, that's fine. I'll be walking around a little bit. I'm an active person. It's not that bad. But if I miss my long run, it's going to be hard to build the mileage in my long run, which if you want more information on that, go back to our half marathon advice.
Yeah.
We talk about marathons too. But when you're working towards a longer distance event, your long run is pretty key. It's like an equivalent to a workout, and you're slowly adding mileage every week. Mm-hmm. So for me, if I lost a week, I really lost like 2 weeks of training.
Yeah.
So last week, I made sure I did my workout. The one night that I went out into town, I found a gym, found a treadmill, and crushed a workout. And it wasn't under the best conditions. Like,
No.
I could have done a lot better. I forgot my flats, so I did it all in trainers. And it was slower and probably just like not as comfortable as it would have been. I did it late at night after dinner, but I was like, that's important. And then the long run. When I got back, luckily I still had Sunday night to run a long run. So something like that. Sometimes easy runs are the easy things to cut.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think easy runs are important in training, but the workout and the long run right now for you when you're marathon training is the most important. So that long run,
I think for half marathon and marathon training is really, really important. I think if you're doing things that are more like 5K, 10K mile, probably your workouts, your speed workouts are going to be the most important. So I would maybe protect those. That's kind of the thing that I like to say is like protect your workouts and protect your long run if you're marathon and half marathon training.
Yeah, because the reality is you're not going to lose that much fitness by missing an easy run or 2.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal. But
Totally.
you could lose a little bit of fitness. Probably not a ton either, but a little bit if you miss your long run or miss your workout.
Yeah, and I think even more than losing fitness, it's like what mileage you need to build up to get to the marathon distance. So if you miss your 15-mile long run one week, then the next week you need to run a 15-mile long run before you run a 16-mile long run. So then it pushes all your training back, and maybe you won't build up to quite as high a mileage for your long run that you would want to run before your marathon. So I kind of like people, especially if it's their first marathon, 20 miles is the longest long run that I like athletes to run. So if we miss a bunch of long runs in there, and then it's harder and harder to build up to that 20-mile long run because we're just trying to add like 1 mile each week.
Yeah, and if you get behind, like she's saying, and you're like, well, maybe I'll add 3 miles this weekend, it just increases the risk of getting injured or just like having a terrible workout.
Yeah.
Like to add a mile, especially early on to a long run, like if you've never run 14 before and you do 14 one week, and you've never run 15 before and you're supposed to do that the following week, and you miss it and then you have to do 16 instead, like adding 2 miles past what you've ever done in your life is a lot to add.
Yeah.
And you could bonk really hard and just regret life that day.
Yeah.
So you don't want to like play catch up with things like workouts or long runs.
Totally. Yeah. So if you have a really busy week, think what days are the days that are least busy and try to do your workout and your long run on those days. And hopefully, if you're marathon training, do your most important workouts on those 2 days. And hopefully you can have at least 1 or 2 days in between. I would not suggest doing your workout and then long run on back-to-back days. Try to spread them out just a little bit, but try to just find 1 day earlier in the week that you could do a workout on, 1 day later in the week that you could do your long run on.
Yeah. For me, this applies in summer times because from May to August, I'm extremely busy because I pretty much work 2 full-time jobs. So I can't marathon train, like realistically, without just waking up at 3 in the morning.
Right.
Which I could do if I wanted it bad enough. I just don't. So what I decided to do is I cut a lot of my mileage. I was working on the mile, so maybe that's helpful to think about too, is like, can I train for the race I really want to train? In my mind, I was like, no, I'm going to be a really crappy marathoner this summer. So you know what I'll work on is speed, because I don't need as much mileage to work on speed.
Yeah.
So it's a great time to get that in. So I actually caught ahead on my marathon training, because when I started marathon training in August, September, I was able to hit the ground running because I had all summer where I cut back a lot of the mileage because of busyness and I did my workout every week, no matter what.
Yeah.
If I missed a day, it was only easy days, not workouts. And then I had all this like speed built up. So when it was time to get to the event I really wanted to do, I had all of my speed there.
Yeah, you were ready. Yeah. Yeah. And you crushed it, I think, in the summer, both building speed and then getting back into training. That was great, and you were fit when you were starting to marathon train. So, yeah, that's a really good tactic to use if you are really busy over a certain season of time.
Yeah, and like, I would never say, oh, that was more ideal than just doing marathon training year round or having a better balance, but the reality was just life happens. And that was the best thing I could do with my time. So sometimes you just have to make that sacrifice. Some people would just say, oh, I just won't run in the summer because I can't do 50-mile weeks. And it's like, fine, do 25, 30 and work on something else.
Yeah, exactly. Do what works for you and what's more sustainable for you, because that's going to make running more fun and more sustainable long term.
Yeah, you want to enjoy what you're doing. If you don't, it gets really hard really fast. And the odds of quitting and maybe failing to do something that you actually did really care about is more likely.
Yeah, that's very true.
Last one.
Last one.
Last one is don't freak out if things aren't perfect. This is really hard to tell runners, or for runners to hear, I think, because a lot of runners are more type A and they want everything to go so perfectly. But I feel like and that's how I am sometimes with my training, but I feel like I've learned to like let go of that control a little bit and just be a little bit more go with the flow. And it doesn't mean that I don't have goals that I really, really want to hit with mileage or workouts. It just means that I'm not so hard on myself when something happens. Like my foot was hurting at the top of Mount Diablo, like I was talking about last week. And so instead of saying, I'm going to push through this and still crush the FKT, the next day I was like, hey, I need to take a few days off, because the more important thing is the goal race that I'm training for. And in order to hit the goal race, I need to be able to train in the weeks to come, and I need my foot to be able to run. So I just took a couple days where I was biking some and enjoyed time with my sister, and then started running again a little bit over the weekend when my foot was feeling good again. So don't freak out when things aren't perfect.
Totally. And this is, like you said, so hard because so many runners are goal oriented. And the thing we love about running, which sometimes is the thing we hate about running, is it's very trackable. You know, it's very numbers based. It's very scientific, which is awesome. You know, you can track progress very easily in running. And that's one of the thrills you get, to look back months ago and say, wow, I've gotten faster. I can run further, you know. But in that, Strava, we talk about sometimes, I love Strava, but sometimes it's easy to find your identity in Strava.
Yeah.
And love seeing the incline, the pretty incline go up.
Yeah, it looks so good.
It looks so nice. But then you get an injury or your life gets busy and there's those little dips and then it doesn't look as good. And you see your other friends who are crushing it and you can judge yourself and stuff. But again, that doesn't really matter. It's not make or break. It's not who you are. Running's fun, but it's not like your life. That's not what gives you value.
Totally.
I had to face this last week because I really wanted to hit 40 miles, which I should have done for the last couple of weeks, but things keep happening. And I've had to do exactly listen to what we've been preaching this entire episode.
Yeah.
Where I've been like, dang, I can't do it. I'm going to do my long run, do my workout, and then just eat some humble pie. And last week, I got back, I left at 5:30 in the morning and got here at about midnight after a long day of travel, driving, flying to multiple states. And I was still mentally committed to running 5 miles that night so that I could hit 40 on the week. And I showed up to the gym and I'm like dead tired. I'm like, this is probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the gym keys to get in. And it's like, theoretically, I could have gone home, got gym keys, found them wherever they were, and like ran at 1 a.m. But I was like, you know what? I think this is a sign. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's not for a lack of like toughness. It's just kind of like, don't be dumb.
Yeah.
Because the odds of me doing something dumb when I'm that tired and exhausted were high.
Yeah, if you're super tired, there's just a really high, like your odds of getting injured are just way, way higher if you're sleep deprived and like super tired. So I always err on the side of caution with that.
Yeah, something I will think about mentally, because this type of situation has happened so many times, is I'll think, what would my mileage have been if I could have done all my easy runs?
Yeah.
And that's like the fitness I'm actually at.
Yeah.
So last week, I think I did like 36 miles or 35 miles, we'll say 35 miles. But I missed 2 easy runs that I otherwise would have done.
Yeah.
Because I was in class. So I was like, 35 doesn't sound that great when I was trying to hit 40. But if you added those 5s, I would be at 45.
Yeah.
And I did a 16-mile long run, which you shouldn't do at 35 miles. It's like half of your mileage.
Yeah, that's true.
So in my mind, just as like a confidence booster to yourself, I don't need to tell anyone else this other than you right now. But in my mind, I'm like, you know what? Be confident. You just ran a 45-mile week. Like your body is primed and ready and able to run a 45. You just didn't have the time to. But your body could. You were ready for it. And sometimes that's really helpful.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And sometimes you have to use those little mental tricks just to be able to trick yourself into like confidence, you know. But I think we've kind of talked from week to week about not freaking out if things aren't perfect. But even in a season, don't freak out if things aren't perfect, because no training block is perfect. And so it's really easy to get in your head if things aren't going your way. But I remember for me in December, I twisted my ankle really badly in a trail. And then I had to take off 4 days, and I was biking for 4 days until it got better and I could kind of start getting into running again. Then right after that, I got like a terrible, stomach bug. And then I retwisted my ankle after that. And then I got like either the flu or COVID. I don't know which one, but one or the other. And yeah, I was like out for 4 or 5 days for that. So over the course of like the end of November through like mid-December, probably all of those things happened to me. And I was taking off a lot of days. If you go on my Strava and look at December or the beginning of December, end of November, it's like really, really low. But then after that, we ended up going to California to run in some trails. We were running in Virginia some, and I felt really great. I was like crushing training, and it was really fun, and I was feeling fit. So sometimes things happen like that, and it doesn't mean that you're not fit. You just have to listen to your body, know when to train, know when not to. And I'm glad that I took the days off that I needed to when my ankle was feeling bad or when I was really sick, because I let myself recover, and instead of pushing on those days and either getting injured or like getting sick again from being sick. So those things really, really helped me to be able to crush December and then go on to January. And I haven't had as many hiccups this month, which is nice.
That's true.
Yeah.
And already by the end of January, you've been in like some of the best shape you've ever been.
Yeah. So don't freak yourself out, and it doesn't take much time. If you're like near the fitness that you've been at, it doesn't take much just to keep building and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just don't freak out.
It's gonna happen. It's not if, but when.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that's where like the mental aspect comes in so importantly. Like if you want a strong body, it starts with a strong mind.
Totally. Yeah. And also just having people around you, like for me, Drew, that I can talk with, and he can kind of talk me down if I'm saying like, oh, I don't think I'm fit anymore, or I had to take off like all these days in December. He can kind of help me and say like, no, you are fit. Like,
say, forget about
it. Yeah, exactly. And same hopefully that I can do for Drew, and just say, it's okay if you didn't hit all your easy runs last week. That's fine.
What do you say?
That it's okay if you
Then you say, forget about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a line from what we're doing this weekend.
Yeah, from what you're missing this weekend.
Yeah, that and guitar smashing. So yeah.
They're like, what camp does he work for?
Yeah, exactly.
It's awesome.
It is an awesome camp.
But yeah, these are some of the basic things of training in busy times and dealing with real life situations, because this has affected us a million times and will continue doing so, and you as well. So hopefully this was helpful for you.
Yeah, hopefully this was helpful for you. Listen to it if you're feeling down about missing training or having hiccups in your training, and hopefully it can motivate you to get past.
Yeah, you got this.
Yeah, you got this. You can do it. We believe in you. Yeah, we really do. We think you guys are all capable of awesome things. So just keep believing in yourself, keep dreaming. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment if you have questions or other topics that you want us to cover.
Till next time.